Welcome to the Geeking Poetic podcast channel.
On this channel, we have shows and segments that contain adult humor,
bad language, dirty jokes,
and other stuff that is strictly for mature audiences only.
So if you're too young or too sensitive for this kind of material, then please do not watch our channel or our videos.
This channel is not for you.
Thanks much.
And now, on with the show! About to fall over.
Welcome, everybody, to Geeking Poetic channel. I'm one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. Over here to my right is my partner in crime, none other than
Megan Guess.
And what are we here to talk about? We're going to talk about the finish of the finale, the final end to this, because it feels like
the
it's
end of all ends.
So they claimed. We'll see. But what is it we're talking about?
We are talking about the last episode of WandaVision.
Yep. The final episode of WandaVision is out, and you may have seen our previous three recap discussion things that we did over the previous weeks, where we talked about episodes 1 through 3, then 4 through 7, and then we did one just about 8, because so much was revealed in 8. And now we're here to just wrap it all up. So, here's the thing. If you watched our videos, if you've watched any videos on the internet about WandaVision, you have seen and heard all kinds of theories and rumors and proposed leaks and where this is going and how it's going to tie into future series and movies that are coming out from the MCU and Disney+.
It's been very exciting.
It's been pretty exciting, and this show lended itself to lots of speculation because there was always, every episode, there was just tons of little Easter eggs and hints and hidden meanings and double entendres and all these things. And so it got all of our minds racing as to what could be.
What does it all mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? How is this going to end? People were like, there's so much they're going to have to reveal with all of this. How are they going to do it all in one 50-minute episode? It's impossible to do. Well, here's how it's possible to do. They just didn't do it.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, things like, the appearance of Doctor Strange.
Nope.
The appearance and proof of mutants in the MCU.
Nope.
Professor X, the X-Men.
Nope.
Nightmare.
Nope.
Mephisto.
Nope.
Any kind of villain at all besides Agatha Harkness.
Nope.
Yeah, there's a lot of nope. Just about everything that we speculated about ended up not being true. And you know what? That's okay. That's the way it is. I mean, part of this, we've never claimed on our show, I can't speak for other shows, but we've never claimed that we had all the answers. We had
no clue.
No, we had just as little clue as most of you did. It was just fun to debate about it. However, there are some things that did happen in this finale, some of which we did actually pretty much kind of figured it out. A couple things I'm proud of that was like, we just about nailed that one. But then there were other things that me personally, I can't speak for you, but for me personally, I was like, that's a sham. That's really letting us down. And I understand, if anybody knows us and if you've watched any of our other reviews or things, we are not part of that culture of nerds and geeks that like to bitch. In fact, we endeavor not.
We try not to.
We endeavor not to. We usually try to talk about the positive, accentuate the positive. And we understand that movie studios and TV studios and directors and actors and writers and all, they are not beholden in any way to our ideas and fantasies and, fan theories and all this other stuff. They have their own plan. We totally respect that. And in most cases, I'm like, whether you love it or hate it, that's right, is what it is. That's, the thing that bothers me about some of the things they did with this show was they kind of asked for it. because Disney and Marvel and Feige and all them, they set us up for certain things. They set everything up that it was like, this is gonna, I mean, how can this not mean this? How can this person not be this person and all this? And then they just pulled the rug out from under us and said, ha ha, psych, it's a joke. You know, we got you going. And I don't know, that feels, I mean, did they need to do that, really?
Apparently they did, yep.
I guess they
To
did.
get you talking about it.
But so that's what we're going to do. We're not going to recap the episode because we assume that if you're listening or watching this right now, you've watched the episode. If you haven't, don't listen to us. Go watch it because there is spoilers galore. I mean, we
love our spoilers.
Well, there's no way to do this without the spoilers. There's just no way. So, you know, you've been forewarned. What we are going to do is we're not going to recap. We're just going to talk about the pros and cons, the things that we thought was really cool and really, you know, hit the right marks. And then there are a handful of things that were, you know, we may not even be totally in agreement on, but each one of us had our own little gripes or things that we felt could have been done better or explained better or whatever. Right?
Right.
All right. So let's just get right into it. Let's start with the positive because there's quite a bit of positive.
There was a lot of positives.
Let's get into the pros. And one of the biggest pros for me about this was what they did with Vision.
Yes.
With Vision's whole storyline, because that obviously has been one of the biggest questions is like, what are they going to do with Vision? How does he exist? And furthermore, how is this going to play out when after we found out in the last episode about the spectral Vision existing, basically that Vision exists in this kind of spirit form, whatever you want to call it, that Wanda has manifested.
It's a piece of her.
It is, and that's what was cool. I loved that she actually explained it because Vision towards the end, the Hex Vision we'll call him, ends up asking her, what am I? And she explains that you are the part of the Mind Stone that lives within me.
That was pretty cool.
And to me, I don't know about you, but I interpret that almost like that's sort of like Vision's soul. That's sort of like his spirit. That's more like the essence of his being, because I feel like, especially when we got to see him facing off against the spectral Vision, which is basically just the body, the robotic part of Vision, I think that what we got to see was how our original Vision really breaks down in terms of what made him who he was. Like all of the robotics and stuff that Tony Stark and Bruce came up with and how they created him, and then Ultron and his input and all that, like created this amazing creature, this person, this synthezoid being. But the essence of who Vision was from the Mind Stone. That was what brought him. And that part of Vision never died. That part lives inside of Wanda.
Right.
And so we got the scene where, after duking it out and giving each other a pretty good beating, actually, we get the scene where Vision and Spectral Vision have a little come to
Heart to heart.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
to Jesus.
Right, exactly. Come to the realization that neither of them are truly Vision, but at the same time they're both Vision. And Vision ends up touching Spectral Vision and like awakens or shares or whatever all the memories and stuff. You see Spectral Vision's eyes go from the Ultron robotic eyes to the more humanoid kind of eyes, and he just says, I am Vision, and takes off. And that's
it.
That's all we
she
get.
wrote.
And that, of course, was a little bit frustrating because it was like, I want more.
There'll be more. There will be more.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be more.
That is not the end.
But we did kind of predict that. We had a feeling once we found out in the last episode that they were doing the Spectral Vision.
He would become Vision.
Right, that
somehow, some way.
they would meld somehow, to create a whole. And that is very exciting for the future. I love the fact that they're going to bring him back. And truthfully, when you think about it, I mean, isn't that really what they were gearing us up for with Vision anyway? Because wasn't that the plan in Infinity War? Was they were going to, Shuri was going to try and remove the stone.
Right, so they could bring him back.
Right, exactly. Because they had already anticipated that he had developed so much. And, you know, and obviously we know now that Wanda does have the power within her, being the Scarlet Witch and everything, to, you know, she's got all that Mind Stone power in her. The Mind Stone is gone, but it still lives on inside of her. So she can sort of power the Vision, bring him back to life. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense.
She did bring him back to life because they used her energy.
Right, exactly. That's right. Yeah, because that's how they brought Spectral Vision online in the first place, was using her Hex energy. Well, see, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mystery solved.
So that part was, to me, probably the most satisfying thing about this.
Yes, I agree.
Is that we're going to hopefully, you know, don't kill off Vision in the fucking Doctor Strange movie or something. Like, let the dude live, all right? Enough already.
We love Vision.
We've watched him die twice now, you know, and he does die in this episode, so to speak. Hex Vision. Yeah, that whole thing, the ending ended up being the farewell to Hex Vision and to the boys, because we didn't already know. I mean, we basically knew that
they couldn't live outside the Hex.
Yeah. Agatha pretty much lets that be known to Wanda, and Wanda fights that for a while. She at first, even when she gets confronted by the townspeople with the reality of how much she's hurting them, because she doesn't think she's hurting them. She's like, no, you're fine. And they're like, bitch, we ain't fine. We're not doing fine. Like, stop telling us that. Like,
it was heartbreaking when she said, my husband's out of town. Tell him I love him, but never come back.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Or you've come to find out that Dottie is just, you know, she's not this cold bitch. Like
she's got a teenage daughter that could be friends with her boys.
Yeah.
Please let her out of her room.
Yeah. She
could fit the storyline, please.
Right.
She's like pleading.
It was so sad because, like, at first I thought that the townspeople were going to kind of like proverbially get their pitchforks and torches and come after her. And it wasn't. It was more like them pleading with her for their lives. At one point where, what's her face? Kitty from that 70s show.
Like, do us a favor, just kill us.
Just let us die. Like, just please stop torturing us.
That was probably the most heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's right up there with that and with Hex Vision and the boys, you know, fading away at the end and stuff. Although it was interesting. Now we got to see Hex Vision disintegrate into nothingness, obviously, but we didn't see the boys. Now,
we assume.
I mean, obviously, because everything was gone, but that is going to lead up to something we're going to bring up in a little bit about the boys. The boys are still a big old question mark in a bunch of ways, but in any case, yeah, I really liked what they did there with the whole town thing. The whole scene where she's walking out of town at the end and they're all just kind of looking at her with like disdain and everything. I mean, like, I don't know. Were we supposed to feel bad for her? Because I didn't feel bad for her. I really was pretty pissed off at Wanda through most of this episode.
I think they were too.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I'm saying, like, are we as the viewers supposed to feel bad for her? Like, oh, poor Wanda, like, everybody hates her now, but, you know, she didn't mean to do, you know,
device, but
yeah.
I guess she didn't mean to, but.
Right, but, you know, here's the thing about Wanda, and it's interesting that they're doing this because Wanda in the MCU has been a problematic character. She's just been problem after problem after problem. You know, I think in her heart, she's a very good person, but she just keeps fucking up. And this show basically just highlights that.
Fuck up.
Right, it just highlights that. And the thing is, though, it's not that far removed from who she is in the comic books, especially if you've read House of M, because holy moly. What she does, and I don't want to spoil that for people if they want to go read House of M, okay, because that's a whole separate thing. House of M, you know, there's things that she does that involve her powers, her irrationality and, mental and emotional instability that has some massive repercussions that are way worse than what happened in WandaVision and stuff. So they are keeping true with the character. I can't really complain about that, but there was just certain things with Wanda in this episode that I was just like, I didn't blame. I don't totally know if I think Agatha is a villain. Do you consider
Still
her?
not sold on that, huh?
Well, I think I think she is a villain, but I don't think she's a cut and dried villain, which is kind of typical for Marvel. I mean, they sort of tried to do that with Thanos, and
a big raging debate with that one.
Right, and even to a lesser extent, although we haven't really seen it yet, but we're going to see it come with characters like Mordo from Doctor Strange, I mean, we know that in the comic books that Mordo becomes like a villain, but when we see what his motivation was at the very end of the Doctor Strange movie and why he was disillusioned with Strange and with the Sorcerer Supreme, and he felt there was an abuse and misuse of the power and all these other things, you sit there and you go, okay, well, this isn't just some greedy asshole that wants to take over the world. Like, he's got his own principles and stuff. I feel the same way to a certain degree with Agatha. Agatha's a bitch, okay? There's no two ways about it. But I do feel like a lot of what Agatha was saying in this episode made sense.
It does.
It's
kind of like she was, in her own fucked up way, trying to save Wanda from herself.
Well, I think she's trying to save the world. I
don't know about that.
I do. And hear me out. Here's what I'm thinking when it comes to this. All right. Like I said, Agatha, she's vain, right? She's obviously vain. She's out for herself in a lot of ways. Agatha doesn't want to destroy the world. She's not an evil villain. She's not the Red Skull. She's not even Thanos. She's not somebody like, she's not Dormammu. She's not an eater of worlds and stuff. She wants to be a badass. She wants to be the Witch Supreme. You know what I mean? That's her thing. That's what she said. I take power from undeserving witches. Okay, now, granted, is she the one to make that choice of who's undeserving? No, but what's to say that she's totally wrong? Because it's prophesized. This isn't just some shit that Agatha made up. It's in the Book of the Damned. It says, and even when those other witches came back to life and were saying, "You're the Scarlet Witch. You're the bringer of chaos and everything," like the Scarlet Witch is prophesized to be the bringer of chaos in the end. Like Wanda can sit there all day long and say, "But that's not me, and I don't mean to do that." Yeah, well, you claimed you didn't mean to put the townsfolk through pain and suffering either, but you fucking did, didn't you? So I think that Agatha, while it was still her own self-serving purposes, I think Agatha was still ultimately looking at it like, I'm doing this for the greater good. Like, I give me the power. I understand what this power means. I think in some fucked up way, like I said, I don't know if I'd look at her as being a villain, nor is she a hero. I think in her mind, she thinks she's a hero. You get what I'm saying?
I guess.
You just don't like Agatha.
She's evil.
I don't think she's evil. See, I don't think she's evil. And I think that she's looking at Wanda like, you're evil. Like, even after Wanda finally embraces and becomes a Scarlet Witch and takes away Agatha's power, and Agatha says to her multiple times, like, do you know what you're doing? Do you understand what you've unleashed? Do you understand what you're setting into motion now? This isn't just about you being another, like, super-powered Avenger and all this kind of shit. Like, you are setting bad events into motion that could be the end of all things kind of thing.
Right. Not saying she's not wrong about that.
Well,
I just think she's out for herself.
Well, I think ultimately...
And that's it.
I think ultimately she's out for herself, but I don't know, whether...
She wanted the power.
Well, and then here's the thing. I think Wanda, some part of her, realizes all of this too. That's why she's now gone and like shut herself away.
Right.
She's
gonna try to make it right.
She's trying to study the book of the damned and figure out what it's all about and everything. And I think that's also the reason why she didn't just kill or banish away Agatha, or who's now back to being Agnes again. I think that was the whole thing when because the last thing Agatha says to her before she gets zapped into being goofy Agnes
You'll need me.
is, you're going to need me because you don't know what you're doing, you know? And I think that's really more to the point. And that's kind of how Agatha is in the comic books. She's not a cut and dry villain, nor is she a cut and dry like good person. As is the case a lot of times with witch characters and stuff, they're not necessarily straight up good or bad. They kind of walk a line.
They're out for themselves.
So I liked what they did with that.
Yeah, I really love her character. I love to hate her.
See, I didn't hate her. I thought she was she was entertaining. I think this show desperately needed her.
Yeah. The actress is amazing.
Yeah, there was lots of great performances. I really loved Monica Rambeau. I loved that character. I feel like it was such a tease. They could have done more with her.
Again, I think it's a setup.
Well, we know it's a setup because we got another thing that we had predicted correctly is we got the mid-credits scene where she wanders into that theater and that supposed, FBI agent actually turns out to be
A scroll.
Yep, we called it.
Finally.
We've been saying for a while, we've been saying almost since the beginning, we have this feeling that the Skrulls are going to come into it. Once we knew that Sword was behind it, once we saw that Monica was involved and everything, and then especially once we found out that she was going to become Photon, I'm like,
Scroll's got to be there somewhere.
Skrulls got to be
One
in
of these
there.
motherfuckers is a scroll.
Yep, exactly. Plus, we still have lingering questions about what's the issue between her and Captain Marvel. Because that got brought up, way back in our second review discussion about how anytime Captain Marvel's brought up, Monica gets a little weird. Yeah, oh, don't bring up her name kind of thing. And we don't know what that's about. Presuming it's got to be something to do with Maria.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I really like getting to see her use her powers a little bit when she protected the boys.
Yeah, that was awesome. See how the bullets come in her and just kind of drop off behind her. That was pretty epic.
Yeah. Photon is I mean, she's supposed to be pretty damn powerful, and that's the thing that's really interesting about a lot of this is that we get to see Scarlet Witch finally emerge, not just Wanda, but Scarlet Witch, and we know from the comic books how incredibly powerful she is. It even gets stated, Agatha says, you're more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So it's like, holy shit, that's pretty powerful because, Doctor Strange, it means she's more powerful than Doctor Strange, which could be a problem getting into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is where this is supposed to be headed. But we also get to see the emergence of Photon, who, again, according to the comic book universe, is an extremely powerful superhero. We have Captain Marvel out there, who's an extremely powerful superhero. It's really cool, man. I mean, they're setting up for some potentially epic proportion shit to happen. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Jimmy Woo.
Just love him.
Yeah, just love Jimmy Woo. I love that he got to do one last magic trick when he was in the handcuffs and you saw him pick the handcuffs and he just says flourish. It's like, oh man,
he's so amazing.
He owes it all to Ant-Man because Ant-Man's the one that set him on the path of learning the magic and everything. So yeah, he's great. I really like his inclusion. His performance overall. Getting into one of the cons was that I felt a little cheated that we didn't get more of Darcy. I mean, I felt like that was a little anticlimactic.
It was fun getting to watch her ram into
Tyler,
yeah.
And she was
pretty awesome,
saying, have fun in prison, she says to him, and that's it. That's all we get from Darcy, and I'm like, really? Could they not afford to pay her more?
Debriefings.
Yeah, which that's funny, but I just sort of felt like...
Again, I don't think that's the end of her. She'll be back.
I hope you're correct because so many people have now lobbied for it. And I mean, Marvel's so set in their ways. I don't see them just taking a cue from any of us. But it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't do more with Jimmy Woo and Darcy.
Now, was it
What?
Monica that said Darcy doesn't do debriefings?
Yeah.
I wonder if she's already been set off to do something
Yeah, you don't know.
for her kind of a movie
Who knows?
with the scrolls and stuff.
Yeah, who
For
knows?
her to mysteriously disappear.
Who knows? I don't know. I like I said, I feel like overall it was a good, enjoyable episode. I do think that, did it put an ending on there? Yeah, it put an ending on there. Some of it was very satisfying, but I feel like there was stuff that just they could have done better, or they could have done a little bit differently.
Detail.
Yeah, I got to get into my cons. And my first, and probably predictably for a lot of people, my first biggest con is Ralph Boner. Really? Really? That's what we got, huh?
At least his name wasn't Richard Boner.
that at least would have been funny. It's like Quicksilver is actually Dick Boner, huh? So we did get the answer of who Ralph is. Not a very satisfying answer for...
No, I told you it was just going to be some dude, and you were like, no, it can't be. They wouldn't do that to me.
Well, they did. They did
Yes,
do that
they
to
did.
us. And I really feel like that was probably the biggest misstep with this whole series. It was just a psych, fake out punked moment where it was like, we're going to do this major thing. We're going to bring in Evan Peters, who played one of the most beloved characters in the Fox X-Men movies as his version of Quicksilver. We're going to bring him in this mysterious way of him portraying Quicksilver in the MCU, and we're just going to let it completely fall flat like a limp dick. You know what I mean? Like, we're just going to let it flop over like...
He doesn't live up to his name.
Doesn't mean... Yeah, exactly. No boner there. All limp. Yeah, it just... I'm like, okay, that was cheap. That was a cheap shot.
Unless they're setting you up again. It's going to be a slow burn where he's Ralph Boner. But he is really Quicksilver. It's going to turn out to be something later.
It could be. I don't...
Like, that was all fake. We set you up.
It could be. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities there. I would hope that they would do that. I just feel like it was just so cheap to do that. I mean, what exactly was the point? I mean, that's just as bad as if they would have brought in like Hugh Jackman and then be like, psych, he's really just some guy and he's not Wolverine and everything. It's like, why do that to us? Is that supposed to be like, fuck you fans? Like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not generally one of those people that gets all uppity. Like, I don't complain about the Star Wars movies like everybody else does. And I did, and I like the Wonder Woman movies and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not that person. But this one felt like, okay, if you get a bunch of shit for this, Disney and Marvel, you asked for it. Like, you set yourselves up for this one, because that's a pretty big letdown to a lot of people. I mean, things like the engineer, I know the aero engineer or something that's perfect for this, and everybody went, oh, I bet it's Reed Richards, or I bet it's this and that not turning out to be anybody. Okay, well, okay, that's fine. Too bad, fans. You speculated. We didn't give you any reason to think that would necessarily be anything. You took that and ran with it. Those kind of things like, oh, Nightmare is going to be in this, or Mephisto. That's all stuff that we speculated and we put our own pieces together. That's on us if we feel let down that they didn't, wind up in there, because there was no promise of any sort made. But by putting Evan Peters as Quicksilver in this movie, you set it up. And you just, like I said, that could have been a strike, and instead it was like a fucking, 7-10 split. And that was really...
Well, maybe they thought you guys would just be excited because the Quicksilver was playing a Quicksilver.
Yeah, I guess.
And that was enough. Not for you guys to go off the rails with it.
Right. I'm assuming that's probably exactly right, what they were thinking. I think that was a misstep. Same thing with the Tyler Hayward and Sword thing. I mean, I feel like
Yeah, that was a lot of build up to
nothing
for
almost.
nothing, yeah.
You know, like, I mean, the whole thing, oh, well, but it was that he was trying to make this sentinel weapon kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like, cool. But it just, even that, like, I thought there'd be some really big battle or some major thing that would go on involving Hayward and his forces
go in there
and
and be
stuff.
sneaky about something and try to steal I don't know, something.
Something, yeah, have it be something more than
And
just
get rammed by a truck. It's like, gotcha.
right.
Now you're done.
And that's literally what it was. It was like he has one gun that he shoots, you know, whatever it was, 6 bullets from, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna go get in my truck and I don't know what he was gonna run him
drive
over
away?
or something.
yeah.
And then he get literally the other big baddie on the show, Tyler, gets stopped by Darcy ramming him with a funnel cake truck. Like, really? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, things they did on this show where I just kind of went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
That, I'll give you that one.
You know, and I just hoped that more would come from that. Now, here's the thing I'm going to say, though, about the cons, the various cons. I'm not going to allow myself to get too uptight about any of it because I understand that this is literally the very first brick in a whole Lego house of story that's going to come.
Right.
You know, I mean, if I look back at movies like, say, Captain America, the First Avenger, or even the first Thor movie, and some of these, like, the first Ant-Man movie, all of them, I enjoy all those movies. But on their own, there were things that when I watched them that I was like, okay, well, what was the point? You know, what was the point of this? What was the point of that? You come to find out.
Patience, little one.
Right,
Patience.
right. Yes, master. I understand. I am just a humble Padawan learning my ways in the Force. Anyway, you're right. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because I know that this is going to potentially lead somewhere. I mean, even the whole Ralph Boner thing, maybe that's going to factor in more. Maybe there's going to be more important stuff that's going to come from Tyler Hayward and his division of S.W.O.R.D. because, I mean, all those people were acting under him and were really doing something out of line. I mean, they were, you know, so are like all those troops in trouble? What about that right hand chick that he had with him? We never saw her again.
No.
Are we going to come to find out that maybe since we already saw the one Skrull and everything, who clearly obviously is supposed to be one of the good Skrulls because they're up there with presumably with Nick Fury and everything. But we know it's been announced. We know that Secret Invasion is coming, which has to do with a sect of Skrulls that have been infiltrating the Earth and stuff in high-ranking positions to, you know, it's kind of like another Hydra sort of idea. So this could just be a small building block to that. I really hope so.
Yeah, this may not be the end of Hayward either.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, you never know. I mean, when we thought at the end of Captain America, the First Avenger, we thought that was the end of the Red Skull. You know, no more Red Skull. And then look how he factored in come Infinity War and Endgame, you know, keeper of one of the stones. And nobody saw that coming. And it ended up being a pretty important little role. So I have learned, because it's Marvel, that you can't just automatically assume that everything is just as it is. I do think we're going to see him again. I think Agatha, Agnes, I definitely think she's coming in
Yes, she'll be
to
back.
the story
I
again.
think they'll all be back.
And that leads us to the final scene of when she is studying, when Wanda is studying the Book of the Damned and everything all Sorcerer Supreme style, where she's outside her body.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool to see that. And she hears her children yelling to her. And now, as far as we know, the children are gone. They zapped away with the Hex bubble disappearing and Vision disappearing and all that. But all of a sudden, we just see her get very alerted and whatever, zips off or whatever, and that's the end. So another thing that we all speculated about based on the comic books, and
The boys will be back.
Yep, the boys are back in town, as Thin Lizzy famously saying. I think the boys are going to come back. I think she's going to study more about her power. She's going to probably team up with Doctor Strange. There's going to be a whole thing, and they're going to figure out a way to bring the kids back. Or are the kids communicating? Did they disappear, or are they part of a multiverse? See?
Dude, my head's already hurting.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Do those kids exist in another universe? We already know, even though they're fucking holding back so bad, we know that the fucking multiverse is coming. We know it's coming. All right? I hope they were going to reveal it more in this goddamn show. They didn't. But we know the multiverse is coming. So maybe with Wanda reaching out and her powers, maybe she's detecting her children are alive in some other realm of being. Mm-hmm. This could even factor in with, Ralph Boner and everything being, because they never did explain how Ralph got his powers as Quicksilver. Was it just supposed to be that Agatha gave him those powers? That seems awfully, I don't know. That seems beyond what she should be capable of doing. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get it.
So, I don't know. There's a lot of questions. But overall, I just want to wrap it up. Overall, how did you feel now that we've gotten through the whole series and you've seen the ending and how it ended? How do you feel about it?
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this ending.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. Even with the, short wrap-ups, that weren't very satisfying, I still overall really enjoyed it. There's enough really good parts to keep me interested.
All right.
Where I didn't notice that as much until afterwards. I started thinking about it. It's like, oh, yeah, they did kind of rush through that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I will conversely state that because I watched the final episode twice. You've seen it once. I saw it twice. After I watched it the first time, I was very frustrated. I was like, this isn't at all what I was
not happy.
Not only what I was hoping for, but even just like I said, what I felt they had actually set us up for. There was a lot of things that I went, that just really fell over flat for me, even things like Quicksilver not being Quicksilver and all that. Okay, fine. We figured that might be coming, but just the way they did it, I was like, oh, that's so bland. Even the way they revealed it, it felt like a bad joke, like a bad dad joke or something. But you like those jokes.
I was gonna say, I don't know what you're trying to sell over here, because I love bad dad jokes.
That's true. After I watched this episode the second time, the shock of it all being gone, I was able to appreciate some of the finer points of it better and get into the emotional aspect of it all. And start to go, okay, well then what does this mean? It's not what I thought it was all going to mean. So what does this mean? And realize that there's a lot of setup for what's to come. Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to bother fucking speculating about what's to come, because who the hell knows, man? Obviously we think they're going one direction, they go in another direction.
And that's good. That's going to make us want to go watch everything.
Yeah.
See, okay, what's really going to happen now?
Right. So, you give it a thumbs up, and I'm giving it sort of I'm giving it kind of a teetering middle thumb kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. I didn't dislike it. There was a lot of things about the show overall that I really liked. I already liked Vision from before, but Paul Bettany just knocked it out of the fucking park on this show. He really embraced it, and getting to see him stretch out in a lot of ways, because the original Vision was kind of one note in a lot of ways. He was entertaining, he was badass, but him getting to be a little bit more emotional in this and going through all the existential crises and all that stuff, very cool. Elizabeth Olsen did a great job. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking anything away from her at all, but I feel like the real star of this was Paul Bettany. His vision and the way he portrays it, to me, it sold this. And what they're setting up for us for the future with Vision and stuff is what's got me leaning more towards the thumbs up than the thumbs down. So
yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this. It was such a fun ride, and it's told in such a unique, different way.
It sure was.
And the speculation along the way, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was, and we did get some payoff. There, like I said, there's just some things. Maybe with time, and time will tell, as we always like to say.
Mm-hmm.
Time will tell. I mean, we'll talk about this more in the future once we've seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is coming out in 2 weeks. Once we see Loki, which is coming out in just a couple of months. Once we get, Doctor Strange, which is going to be out by, I think, this time next year, if not sooner. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. We got Black Widow coming up. There's a lot to come yet, and I have a feeling it's all going to reveal more of what
big picture.
Yeah, what they set up with WandaVision. So for all of you that have listened and watched us talking about this show, thank you so much. Please, we beg you constantly, leave us comments, let us know. We do this, we're not making money off of this, we're not getting famous off of this. We are doing these shows because we are geeks that love to converse about this stuff, not just with each other, but with you. So leave comments. Let us know, what did you think of the series? What did you think of the finale? We already asked some people today in the Geeking Squad group, and overall, the response was pretty positive.
Pretty positive, yeah.
People seem to lean a little bit more towards your feelings about
I'm right.
it. Maybe. You might be
You're just
right.
being too sensitive over there.
You may be right. I may be crazy, but it just might be a lunatic that you're all looking for. Yes, I just quoted Billy Joel. I did do that. But anyway, we will be back very soon to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier because, boy, am I excited about that.
You cannot wait for that one.
Now, if they fuck that one up, oh my God, Marvel, so help you. Because I've been looking forward to that since before you even announced it. I was like, but when we were watching, ever since Civil War, I was like, oh man, they need to do something with Winter Soldier and Falcon. That'll be so badass. And I got it. Marvel, I'm counting on you. You better do this right. But anyway, Geeking Poetic out. We will be back soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.